I'm Khyra Steiner, and you're listening to Elaborate with K. Elaborate with K. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Elaborate with K. So today's episode is going to be talking about loss and just dealing with losing things. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so as I'm filming this, it is 2025, and recently my school, as well as a bunch of other schools across the country, the United States, have been rolling back, not just schools too, schools, jobs, stores, just various different companies, have been rolling back and completely getting rid of or reorganizing, reframing their DEI, Departments of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Um, and I mean, I'm not gonna go and talk about, all of the rules and regulations and everything with that. But what I do want to talk about is just, how to deal with that, especially as like a minority or as someone that typically uses and like seeks out those spaces, kind of how to deal with the change and where do we go from here. So, for those of you that don't know, I am, in addition to this podcast and track, I am also a very active member of BSU. I have been since I was in middle school. I am our current BSU president stepping down in a couple of weeks because of graduation. So my term is almost over, but obviously BSU has been a really big part of just my overall experience at school, especially attending a PWI. And, I think that it's been an amazing space. I've truly met some of my best friends through it, a lot of like just people that I'm super close to that I've learned so much from, that I've been able to like connect with on different levels, people in my major, people in different majors, whatever it is. It's truly been like a great space to have. And so with these changes, so I don't, for my school specifically, as of now, like no student orgs have been touched or anything because they are student spaces. But our DEI department is one of the departments that was kind of erased, I guess. And so everyone who previously worked in that department now works in a different department with different titles and a new office, and yeah, it's all different. It's all different. Um, And I think that, my school sent us an email about it, and they said, hey, like, this is what's happening to the office. Like, these are all these new people, or all these people, like, these are the new positions. This is what they're going to be doing now. And this is effective essentially immediately. And reading that was honestly, it was shocking. I think we all had a feeling that, like, there were going to be more changes coming. I think we first had just changes in like, oh, they can't do as much stuff and like kind of keeping a low profile. But for it to go from that to like a complete 180 shift of like, oh, doesn't exist anymore is kind of crazy. And it was crazy news to hear. I was like in class when we got the email. Like it was super random on like a Thursday afternoon. And it was hard. Honestly, I think that me and the rest of my board on BSU, our group chat, we were talking about it and we were like, no way, like this is real. Is this really happening? Like, it's really just this feeling of shock. And I think that with so much stuff happening recently, it's hard and it's a lot to deal with. And it kind of feels like it's a spiral and you're like, oh my gosh, what's happening next? Like, is this ever going to end? Like, it feels like a lot. It feels like there is a lot going on. And I think that, as hard as it is, and it's truly devastating, and you're like, oh, like the space the space that was created for us and that I used, that we utilize, was cultivating like a community space for us, like, is just no longer going to be there. Like, how does that even work? And it feels really weird and crazy, like, to think about. But I think that's something that I've been reminding not only myself, but also the rest of my board and just students that are having a really hard time with it is I'm trying to remind them as much as possible, at least for my school, that the faculty and the resources that we had in the DEI department are still there. So I know for us, they moved to new departments and they're going to be doing different jobs. They have new positions and everything. But at their core, I think that specifically, I know, yeah, at their core, I think that if the people who were in your DEI office or in that department on that team, if they're still present at your company or organization, I think that that's a win, and it might feel small and it's like, okay, but like they're not even doing what they originally came in here to do or what they were doing. And like, yeah, that's true. But their presence is still there. Like, you still have that level of support and advocacy in whatever capacity they can. It's definitely not going to be the same. There's going to be a lot of changes. But I've been trying to remind everyone, like, okay, but we do still have the support, like the faculty members, just because they have a new position title doesn't mean that they're gonna stop caring about you, that they're gonna stop caring about what you're going through or what your experience is. Like, that's not what it means essentially. They're getting this new title and everything, but I'm sure if you go and you talk to them and you're like, hey, I have this problem, like I just, I need advice, whatever it is, like they can go and help. And so I think, it's really important to just seek out those resources, continue cultivating those relationships. And, if they're moved to a new office and a new department, like, okay, go visit them, keep up that relationship and keep up your support system. And I think, especially now more than ever, it is so important for you to be able to have and find and stay around your support system, have a support system. It's so important to have friends and colleagues and coworkers and whatever it is that can understand your experience, even if it's just one kind of semi like an allyship, just someone that kind of that gets what you're going through, that understands the importance of your experience and the struggle of what you're going through currently and how that really affects you as a person and personally, not related to school or work, and how it does affect you in school or work and how it affects, just your performance and how you're going to be able to perform. And I know that what something that we try to do a lot at my school and like as a BSU and other affinity group organizations is, the world is crazy and there's always something going on and the news is wild and it's really hard to like stomach everything. Like, it feels like there's just so much. And so what we try to do is, we'll host community check-ins and we say, hey, we're going to be in this room for like these hours. If you need to come by, you need to stop by, you need a vent, rant, you want to just be around people that are feeling similarly to you, that have a similar experience to you, like just come by. We usually like will offer snacks and it'll just be a time for you to like, I don't know, I think that sometimes it feels better just to be in a space with people that are feeling similarly to you. Even whether you talk or you don't talk and you sit in silence, sometimes it's just comfortable knowing that you're not the only one going through it. You're not the only one like having certain emotions about whatever is going on. And I think that especially as a minority or, you know, as a black person at a PWI, you can be the only person in a classroom or in a certain space, and your reaction to getting an email about the DEI department no longer existing or whatever it is, I'm sure my reaction is going to be very different from the girl sitting next to me in class who, you know what I mean? Like, your experience can be different, and being in those spaces and feeling like the odd one out in those spaces can definitely make you feel like, oh, like, am I crazy for thinking or feeling this? Like, is it bad that I feel this way? Is it okay that I feel this way? It's absolutely okay, and I think that it is your own personal experience, and whether it's something that's happening within school or work or whether it's something that's happening within your personal life, like, it is, no matter what, it is affecting you, and it's okay to feel some type of way about something that's affecting you. But I would suggest, I would suggest really just seeking out and continuing to cultivate and cherish those relationships that you do have. Continue to use your resources and mentors and supporters and people that are in your corner, whether they're continuing to stay in this corner or whether they have to move to a corner across the way. They're still going to be there for you. And I think that honestly, as much as we want everything to stay the same or go back to how it was, and you want to keep the office and you want to keep everything, I think that it is very important to take the small and take the little wins of like, okay, they're still here, we're still here. There is no rule saying we're not allowed to be here, so let's use our resources and our presence to continue to create the best space possible for ourselves and for the other students. And I think like for us with BSU, right, it's like, okay, we no longer have the support from this office. They can't host events and they can't do a lot of the things that they did to support us and other students and like information, even just giving out information. And we really looked at it and we were like, okay, like we are just gonna have to step up, you know? And yes, it can be tiring and it can be draining and it's daunting and it's scary when you think like, do we have to do everything? Like, does that mean everything just falls on our shoulders? But I think that I feel really lucky to have a board and a team that is very passionate about not only making sure that we ourselves are having a positive experience, but also that the future students that are coming in, the new class of students and the underclassmen that we've grown to get close to and talk to and understand, and like we've been able to see them grow throughout their short time here so far, right? Like we really want to make sure that they're also able to have a good positive experience and be that support system for them, and be able to use the resources and the tools that we've learned throughout our time here to really help give back to them and give them the resources and the tools that they need to have a more positive experience, as positive as it can be. um but yeah, that's what I have to say about that. I doubt that this will be the last episode about this. It seems to be an ongoing situation, battle. But yeah, I think just making sure that you are staying conscious and thankful and aware of what you do still have, and really just taking the chance and the opportunity to continue those relationships and look on the bright side and make the most out of what you do have. Figure it out. That's what we do. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening and watching to this week's episode of Elaborate with Kay, and I'll talk to you next Sunday. Bye. And yeah, talk to you next Sunday.